Hello friends, my name is Ansu. If you don't know who I am, consider subscribing down below. Today I wanted to sit down and talk to you about all the books that I would like to read in the month of February. It is flying by and I want to read a few books, and it has been like on my TBR or on my shelf for a little too long now, so I'm just like, it's time to read some of these. This kind of goes along with the idea that I want to read down my physically owned TBR. I'm certainly looking forward to doing that this year, but I have a few books that I want to talk about today, and obviously February is the month of romance, so I want to read a few romances as well. Let's see how I feel, because you know, I'm a sad, lonely human being, so that might not work out exactly the way that I want to. Anyway, the books that I want to read in February, I'm gonna chat about those right now. Alright, if you've seen one of my book hauls recently, I think, did I post it? I feel like I did not post it yet. Oops. I'm kind of including those ones in here as well. The first one is Book to Die by John Dunning. I think this book came out in the 1990s or something. It's the 25th anniversary edition, and so I got this honestly because it was so dang beautiful. Essentially, what is this book about? You might be wondering. We have this detective named Cliff Janeway. He's like super into books. He has been collecting like special editions of books, and these books have really high value at this point. And so there's this murder that happens constantly of like these homeless people, and we're trying to find out how these people are getting killed and why. Well, we know how, but like, why are they getting killed? And so constantly as well. Plus, who is the culprit for that? There's this particular book scout who got murdered named Bobby, and John, who the hell is John? The author. Not John. Cliff Janeway, the detective, also has heard about Bobby, so he has seen Bobby in a few of his endeavors, and so since Bobby has been murdered, he's like really, it kind of hits close to home, I guess, and he wants to solve this murder even more right now. Cliff kind of opens a bookshop in the search of also finding out who the killer is, and more things happen. The killer gets his way, I guess, and it's a little intense. I have started reading this book. I got to around 30 pages of it. I need to pick this up in a couple of days once it hits February so I can actually finish it, because I was really enjoying it. Next up, I have been in such a murder mystery thrill. It's always been a kick for me right now, reading a bunch of murder mysteries. If any of these situations ever happen to me, you know the first person who's going to die, that's going to be me for sure. Doesn't, no questions asked. The one that I was looking at was You'll Be the Death of Me by Canon McManus. I've read a few books by her. One of Us is Lying, The Cousins, and there's one I've read more recently, which I completely forgot the title of, but I have read 3 or 4 books by this author, and I do enjoy her writing style. It has this very like high schooly mystery story going on with a bunch of murders that occurs, and we're usually following around these group of students in most of her stories, and we're just trying to find out who the killer is. That's how it usually goes, and honestly, it's just a fun time. Well, not for the people involved because everybody's dying, but still, you know, it's just a fun time. For me personally, I just really enjoy trying to figure out who the murderer is in the first place, and just getting to know just getting to know these characters by themselves. I think it's just really fun, and I always have a good time with their stories. Yes, it is YA. I don't tend to read much of YA anymore, but I don't know, for some reason like mystery thrillers have been pretty good for me as a YA, so it's not too bad. I am very much looking forward to this. It's gonna happen in February. That's the goal. This next one I got last year because I was highly anticipating it. Did I read it yet? Of course I haven't. That is Bloodmarked by Tracey. I've read Legendborn and absolutely adored that book so much. So this one shouldn't be a surprise that I got it. I do have a good reason. I am one of those self-proclaimed people who said like, oh, I read a lot of fantasy, but it has been so long since I've read fantasy and been completely into it. For some reason, it just takes me way too long to actually get into fantasies, and you know, just understanding who the characters are, the world, everything. It just takes so much time, and I just have not been able to immerse myself into this whole fantasy world. But Legendborn, which is the first book of this series, we have our main character Bree, who is a young prodigy, I guess. She's like 16 years old, going into university to do more like further studies and stuff. Something happened in her life that was kind of dark, I guess. She had an argument with her mother of going to this particular school. Her mom was completely against Bree going and attending this university for whatever reason, and they had this huge argument. And soon after they had this argument, Bree's mother ends up dying. of kind of mysterious circumstances. It almost seems like she just got into an accident and it's just super sad. Obviously, Bree and her mother didn't patch things up before this accident and death, so Bree is living in like constant devastation and grief. She still ends up going into the university, and one day Bree goes to a party and there was like some demon attack that happened and she gets her memory wiped. Thing is, the next day she remembers everything that happened. She actually remembers the person who wiped her memory away, and she remembers the sensation of getting her memory wiped previously, like from some other incident, and she comes to realize that the same sensation happened on the day that her mother died. So she has a thought in her head that her mother died from more than just an accident. There's much more to that situation. She's trying to figure out like what happened to her mother in real life, and it's that like whole investigation process. And since she wants to figure out like what happened, she comes across this society called the Legendborn. The Legendborn are essentially these group of fighters, really well-trained people who are basically like shadow hunters from Cassandra Clare's world. They kind of destroy demons and keep the peace between, you know, the demon world versus the human world. That's their purpose, I guess. So Bree wants to like infiltrate into this and understand this whole society and make her way to understand what happened to her mother. Just to go through some trials, racism, a bunch of different things, and it's really so impactful. Like the first book was so good that I was definitely looking forward to reading this. Just haven't gotten to it because it's a fantasy. It is going to happen soon. I swear. It will. It has to. I think. Like I was mentioning a little earlier, I do have a few romances that I want to get to. I was actually like on the elliptical and I was just like, let me watch some random video, and I saw this video by Chandler Ainsley. I have never watched her videos before, so I was just like, okay, you know what? This looks cool, let me watch it. It's like a book haul, and she talked about this book called Twice Shy by Sarah Hogle. You know, honestly, I didn't know much about it, but it sounded super cute, and it was like, yes, this is something that I should read. This is something that I want to read. We have Mabel, who's like in her own world. She is such a huge romantic. She comes to huge disappointments in real life, and one day she gets this inheritance from her great aunt. She inherits this house, and she ends up going there. So she's like pretty thrilled. She goes to this house to only find that it is in shambles. One thing she also comes to realize is that she's not the only inheritor, because she has to share pretty much everything with the groundskeeper. This groundskeeper who is Wesley, and he is this very grouchy, grumpy dude. Obviously, I feel like it's a grumpy sunshine romance situation. It sounds really cute, and I feel like I would truly enjoy this. So this is definitely up on my list. I want to pick it up. We'll see how it goes, and I'll keep you guys posted on how good or bad this one is, because yeah, it's just like a super random recommendation that I got. I've never seen it anywhere else. I've never heard about it before, so this is going to be very interesting, and I'm really looking forward to it. Another book that I actually got from NetGalley as an early copy is In the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune. I adore TJ Klune's books. I have read like 2 books by him, and I've enjoyed both of them immensely. This one is actually quite weird. I don't know like how to explain it properly. We have like a bunch of characters who are living in the same house. So there's like a robot, there's an android, and there's also a human named Victor who's kind of like living in the same place. One of the androids, Giovanni, is like a fatherly inventor, kind of an android. I was gonna say person, but it's technically not a person. Victor is like trying to go through this house, and he was like finding repairs and stuff, and he comes across this unfamiliar android labeled as HAP, H-A-P, and he learns a shared dark past of Giovanni and this particular android, and they had apparently been hunting humans in the past. Hap, the android, accidentally sends some signals out into the world to alert robots of their whereabouts. His family is basically no longer hidden and safe. Giovanni, fatherly inventor android, gets actually whisked away by these robots because he's a creator essentially. So Victor and the rest of the family go through an unforgiving, otherworldly country to get to Giovanni and rescue him. It sounds pretty intense, but also has like this familial aspect that I truly enjoy in books. So it's going to be very interesting to see that as well. And I'm just like super excited about this. It's always been like such a pleasure to read TJ Klune's books. Granted, I've only read 2, but still, it has been pretty top-notch for me, so I feel like it's gonna be an easy favorite of mine. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. I'm like definitely looking forward to getting to this one. Another one that I want to get to is My Imaginary Mary by Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jody Meadows. These 3 authors are just something else when they're writing together. I love their stories. I think it's fantastic. They usually take this person or character from the 1800s or so, and they kind of twist it into this fantasy-esque story. In this particular book, we're following around Mary Shelley, who has a very brilliant mind, but she's also living a super drab life and is living above her father's bookstore. And she's just basically waiting for an idea that will impress her very secret beau. On the flip side, we have Ada Lovelace, who's also a mastermind, and her parents are also like super famous, like a lord and a lady. Ada's passions lie in mechanical engineering. The problem is the ideas that she brings forth are usually taken away by men and claimed as their own, and so she has this like super amazing idea called Pan, Practical Automaton #1, and this machine is supposed to change the world completely if only she can figure out how to make it autonomous or make it work in general. It's them like connecting paths and trying to figure out like their way of success, I guess. And it's always such a fun time, honestly. It is like the most ridiculous matter of stories. If you're going in with like, oh, it's gonna be like more of a serious historical fiction, that's not it at all. This is like super fun. There's like some characteristics of these particular people that are slightly changed with a twist of fantasy and added into it, and these narrators or authors kind of come out of their shell and talk to you, the reader. And I think it's just so fantastic. It's always been such a great time reading these stories, and I absolutely adore it. So very excited about this. This will have a hint of romance as well, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. Those were all the books that I want to talk about. There were quite a few. I think those are like 6 books if I'm not wrong, and let's hope I can at least finish like half of this from this particular list, because otherwise it's just sad, especially the 3 like physical books that I have, because like what am I doing with my life? But yeah, I definitely want to get to these books as soon as possible in this month. So looking forward to it. Let me know down below what are some books that you were trying to read in February, and if you have like more romance books that you totally recommend, let me know. I love romance, but I just don't pick it up as much, unfortunately. So like, shoot it my way. I'll definitely try to get to a few more. I will be scouring the internets to find out more of these stories. If you're new here, hi, welcome. My name is Ansu. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to be notified every single time I upload a new video. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all next time with another one. Until then, I'll talk to you in the comments. Bye!